Have you ever stopped, amidst the hustle and bustle of work and daily worries, to ask yourself a question, very simple, but also very profound? What do I live for? Maybe the question creeps in on a sleepless night, or maybe you wake up one morning and suddenly have no reason to get out of bed. Or maybe it comes when you've achieved something you've always wanted, a good job, a nice house, but you feel strangely empty inside. That is the moment we realize living is not living. Without a reason, each day is just a tired copy of yesterday. Every action we do is like chasing something, without even knowing what it is. That feeling is like a boat drifting in the middle of the ocean. Without sails, without direction, we can drift, but never get anywhere. We live in strange times. The world is getting faster, louder, and more confusing. Social media, standards of success, family expectations, financial pressures, all of these are strong winds pulling us, but not showing us the direction. You can be very busy, but not know why you are busy. You can be successful, but still feel empty. You can be alive, but not really alive. And then, one day, you look back and wonder, how many years of my life have I spent chasing something that isn't mine? That is why this quote by Friedrich Nietzsche touches the hearts of millions. He who has a reason to live can bear almost anyhow. He who has a reason to live can bear anyhow. The reason for living is not something far-fetched or lofty. Sometimes, it is just something very simple but profound. I live for my family. I live to spread light. I live to heal. I live so no one else has to go through what I went through. When you find that reason, life is no longer a series of repetitive days. Every action you do has meaning. Every stumble no longer makes you want to give up, because you know, you are not just living, but living for something. Not everyone finds their reason for living right away, but anyone can start that journey right now. So, if you're feeling lost, empty, or tired today, don't blame yourself. Maybe you're not weak, lazy, or unmotivated. Maybe you're just missing one thing, a reason to live. And when you figure that out, everything changes. There is a kind of tiredness that no amount of sleep can cure. A kind of emptiness that no matter how much you achieve, it cannot be filled. And the strange thing is, so many of us live with this feeling every day, without being able to name it. But if you find yourself constantly procrastinating, or feeling like you're just holding on to get through each day, if you tend to start things on impulse, then quickly lose interest and give up, or if you constantly compare yourself to others and find yourself not good enough, not fast enough, not like enough, then maybe what you're lacking isn't discipline, energy, or inspiration. You just lack a clear reason to live. Because when you don't know why I exist, you will not know what to do with this life. Without a why, every action becomes random, every effort is doubted, every difficulty is exaggerated, and worst of all, you start living the way others want you to live. There's no shortage of voices in today's world. Social media tells you to succeed early. The media tells you to make a lot of money. Your family may expect you to settle down. Your friends may brag about your ideal life. And the hustle and bustle of modern life leaves you with little time to stop and ask yourself, so what is really important to me? You are pulled by dozens of winds, but without a compass. I once met a man, in his 50s. He had it all: a stable career, a loving family, and a comfortable financial situation. But in a private conversation, he told me, "I don't know what I'm living for anymore. Every morning when I wake up, I ask myself, why do I continue? Something inside me has been dead for a long time, but I just let it be." That statement made me speechless, not because it was so tragic, but because it was so familiar. How many of us live like this? On the surface, everything is fine, but inside, it's a desert. And the scariest thing is when you start to not feel that it's abnormal anymore. You get used to living aimlessly. You get used to doing things just because you have to. You get used to smiling on the outside, but feeling lost on the inside. You start to believe life is like that. No, life is not just like that. It only becomes that way when you don't know it. Why I live. When you don't have a why, you tend to chase the short term. You do something for the immediate inspiration, but you can't sustain it in the long term. You give up easily because there's nothing worth sticking to. You get distracted easily because you don't know when enough is enough. And you feel inadequate because you have no standards to define your self-worth. Eventually, you fall into a familiar cycle. Exhaustion, right-pointing arrow. Search for inspiration, right-pointing arrow. Impulsive start, right-pointing arrow. Loss of motivation, right-pointing arrow. Quit, right-pointing arrow. Empty, right-pointing arrow. Exhaustion again. Repeat. But the good news is, no one is forcing you to stay in that loop forever. Anyone, at any age, can start their own journey to find their why. The journey is not easy. It requires you to listen to yourself. It requires you to dare to ask questions. It requires you to stop running and start understanding. But once you find a reason to live, however small, however simple, you will see things begin to take clearer shape. Every day is no longer a repetitive sequence. Every action carries a trace of meaning. And you yourself also begin to live with direction, no longer dragged by the crowd or meaningless comparisons. Because you know well, what do I live for? Imagine you are walking through a dense forest, with no map, no destination, and no one to guide you. Every step is a bewildering one. Every turn leaves you wondering, is this the right direction? Living without knowing why you live is like that. You can move a lot, but not get anywhere. And then one day, you stop. You ask yourself, what makes me really want to wake up in the morning? The answer to that question is your reason for living. Not a grand ideal, not a fancy word to write in a personal introduction. Just something that makes you feel like you're living for something meaningful. Many people mistakenly believe that a reason to live has to be something big, changing the world, writing a legacy, or reaching the pinnacle of a field. But the truth is, a reason to live can start from the smallest things. Some people live for their children. They want to be a solid foundation for a stronger generation. Some people live by faith. They believe that every day of existence is an opportunity to sow kindness. Some people live because they have been hurt, and they don't want anyone else to feel the same pain. And there are people who live for a dream, no matter how small, but enough to light a fire every day. Your reason for living doesn't need to be approved by others. What matters is that it's real to you. It touches something deep inside you. And when you have that reason, you don't need anyone to pull you up you can pick yourself up. Even if the whole world turns its back on you. Why is the reason for living so powerful? Because when you know the why, you can endure any what and how. That's not just a nice quote. It's true, and it comes from the experience of a man who survived hell on earth, Friedrich Nietzsche. He once wrote, "He who has a reason to live can bear almost anyhow." He who has a reason to live can bear anyhow. Let me tell you a true story. A woman lost her entire family in an accident. For a year afterward, she didn't want to do anything. But then, she started writing, not to be famous, but to keep the memory of her loved ones alive. She wrote a page every day. It was her way of healing. And it was her way of finding meaning in life again. She once said something that I can never forget. "I no longer live for what is lost. I live to keep what is important." A reason to live doesn't save you from pain, but it keeps you from falling. It doesn't take away the difficulty, but it makes you know what you're walking for. It keeps you steadfast amid countless choices, and steady amid every emotional storm. You will no longer live to please others. You will no longer be dragged down by comparisons or expectations. You will no longer give up easily just because you encounter difficulties. Because you know, I am living for something truly worthwhile. And when you live with that reason, everything you do, even the smallest thing, takes on a greater meaning. You no longer do it for the sake of it. You do it to live what you believe. Every word, every action, every choice begins to connect with something deep inside you. Finding a reason to live, it sounds like a glorious, awakening moment. But the reality is that not everyone suddenly knows what they were born to do while sitting in a coffee shop or looking up at the sky. Most of us don't find our reason to live by accident. We have to find it. And it was not a simple search. Not everyone is born with a compass. There is no one standing in front of you, pointing at a path and saying, "Here, this is your mission." Often the reason for living is hidden in very personal experiences. It doesn't come when you're happy. It often comes when you're broken. And if you dare to face, dare to listen, dare to look deep inside, you will begin to realize, I live to do something real. And that's not out there, it's inside me. So how do you start this journey? There are 3 paths you can take, like 3 maps leading to your own heart. Blank. Underscore. Blank. First is personal experience. Ask yourself, what have I experienced that I will never forget? Where did I hurt? What fear have I overcome? Pain can be the clearest mirror of what you value. If you have lived in scarcity, you will likely live to build abundance for others. If you grew up alone, you may live to connect and heal. If you have ever failed, been misunderstood, or been forgotten, that can be the material for you to create a bright path for others. Blank. Underscore. Blank. The second is core values. In the midst of a noisy world, sit down and ask yourself, what do I truly value most? Is it freedom? To be true to yourself? Is it love? Being deeply connected to those around you? Is it about contributing? Feeling useful? Even just a little? Every person has non-negotiable values. They are what make you feel right, complete, and meaningful. The reason for living is often right there. It is not the specific action, but the meaning behind the action. Blank. Underscore. Blank. And finally, service. There is a very powerful, simple question that many people overlook. Who do I want to help? The journey to find the reason for living is not only a journey of finding myself, but also a journey of opening up to others. Have you ever seen a social issue, a real-life story, a disadvantaged group of people that you couldn't sit still about? At that time, your heart is telling you something, that you can't turn away from this pain. And most likely, that's where you find your reason for living. Blank. Underscore. Blank. But you know, on that journey, many people get lost, not because they are not smart enough, not sincere enough, but because they make very common mistakes. First mistake: thinking that the reason for living must be really great. That if I can't change the world, I have no reason to live. But the truth is, your reason for living doesn't have to be resounding, as long as it resonates within you. Mistake number 2: waiting for inspiration to magically strike. No, your reason for living doesn't come to you while you're scrolling through your phone or watching Netflix. You have to be proactive. You have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to try and maybe fail, but keep going. Mistake number 3: confusing wants with real values. You may want a big house, a prestigious job, a rich life, but that's just a formality. Ask again. What value does it serve? Freedom? Safety? Feeling loved? When you separate what you want from what you need to be true to yourself, you will take a big step toward your true reason for living. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Finally, you don't need to have all the answers right now. Just start asking. Just stop running after the outside world and start listening within, because the reason for living does not lie in a strange place. It's always there, within you, waiting for you to be brave enough to find it. Is when you don't just live, but truly live. There are some pains that, if you look at them from the outside, you would think, no one can survive that. But the strange thing is, some people not only survive but also come out with incredible mental strength. What makes the difference? The answer is not in physical strength, status, or blind optimism. It is the reason for living. Let me tell you a story about a man named Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist and author of the famous book, Man's Search for Meaning, Finding the Meaning of Life. His life was not shaped by his academic achievements, but by his survival in a Nazi concentration camp, where most of his family was murdered, and where people were stripped of everything: freedom, dignity, food, and hope. In those dire conditions, Frankl realized a truth that no one teaches in books. People can endure any situation, as long as they still find meaning in life. And he survived by holding on to one reason: I have to live to help others find their reason for living. He pictured himself standing in front of a classroom, teaching after the war. He imagined what he would write in books. He turned his own suffering into raw material to build something useful. And when the war ended, he did blank underscore blank. We may not be in a concentration camp, but we all have our own battles. It may be loss, illness, divorce, bankruptcy, depression. There are days when you wake up and feel like the world is crashing down around you. At those times, if you rely on positive emotions alone, you will soon give up. But if you have a deeper reason, something that is not dependent on temporary emotions. Something that makes you feel life is worth living. You will not fall apart easily. When there is a reason, suffering is no longer an enemy. It becomes a teacher. It sharpens your inner strength. It tests your resolve. It forces you to distinguish between what is important and what can be let go. Pain helps you grow, but not all pain is worth experiencing. Only when pain has meaning does it become bearable. Think about the times you've hit rock bottom and kept going. Why? Maybe because you think of your child waiting for you at home. Maybe because you promised yourself never to go back to where you started. Or simply, you know you still have something unfinished. It was those reasons, simple as they were, that saved you. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Frankl once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. When circumstances cannot be changed, man is called upon to change himself. And the reason for living is what helps you change yourself. To continue living, stronger, more meaningful. In the modern world, where everything is so fast and disorienting, suffering no longer comes from bullets, but from emptiness, from having everything on the outside, but not feeling enough on the inside. That's where reason comes in. It doesn't eliminate difficulty, but it redefines it. When you know what you are living for, you will understand that every stumble is part of the journey. Every failure does not define you. It trains you. And every moment of suffering is not meaningless if it serves something greater than yourself. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Try asking yourself, if tomorrow were my last day, what would make me want to live today? That answer is the seed of reason for living. You don't have to be Viktor Frankl, but you can start like he did, by finding something you can't let go of. Because once you have that, life, even the painful ones, becomes a journey worth taking. Finding a reason to live is a wonderful thing, but living it is the most important journey. Because a reason to live, if it only exists in the mind, will always be just a beautiful idea. It only truly exerts its power when you turn it into concrete action. Every day, every hour, living with a reason means you don't just say what you believe. You show it by how you live. If your reason for living is to help others overcome pain, then every day you choose to be kind. Listen, and be truly present for someone. If your reason for living is to be a responsible parent, then every day you choose to come home on time. Spend quality time with your children, and set an example through your actions. If your reason for living is freedom, then every day you choose to say no to the things that make you lose yourself, and move closer to what makes you truly free in spirit. In other words, your reason for living is not a slogan, but a guide for all your choices. Blank. Underscore. Blank. And to keep that reason from fading away over time, you must keep it alive and clear. Many people, after finding the most important thing in their life, let it fall into oblivion in the hustle and bustle of life. They don't mean to, but they let work, pressure, and busyness overwhelm the core. So, here's a small but incredibly important thing to do. Write down your reason for living. It's simple. Write it in a notebook. Put it on your phone screen. Keep it by your bedside. Read it every morning. Remind yourself of it whenever you feel lost. Because there will be days when you are tired, when you doubt, when you feel no longer have the strength to continue. And it is on those days that you need to remember, I chose this because it was worth it. Like a mountain climber, the reason you start is to see the beautiful view at the top. But halfway up, you get tired, you want to turn back, and if you don't remind yourself why you started, you'll give up easily. But if you keep that image in your heart, you'll keep going. Blank. Underscore. Blank. So how do you know you're living your why? There are some very clear signs. And you don't need anyone to confirm it, because the feeling comes from within you. First of all is inner peace. Not absolute peace, but the feeling that you are living rightly. Living authentically. Living meaningfully. Even if there is chaos outside, you are still stable inside. Second, you are not easily swayed. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't run after expectations anymore, because you know where you're going and why you chose that path. Third, you know how to say no to things that are not important. You are no longer caught up in every invitation, every trend, every fear of missing out. You focus on what's really important to you, and that puts you at ease. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Living with a reason, not always easy. But it is the only way to make each day meaningful. You don't need to live grandly or perfectly. You just need to live with direction. A life with a reason is never a life without meaning. And once you keep that up, you are not only living for yourself, but you are also inspiring those around you. Blank. Underscore. Blank. Bullseye. Try asking yourself one question every morning. How will I live today, in a way that is true to the cause I have chosen? Just that one simple question. If you truly live by it, you will never be lost. Bullseye. If this video makes you look at life in a different way, like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on content that helps you live more deeply every day. Pushpin. Please share in the comments section. Right finger. What is your reason for living right now? I'd love to read your answers, and who knows, maybe you'll inspire someone else. Seedling. Don't just watch and forget. Let today be the day you start living with a clear, powerful, meaningful reason. See you in the next videos.